Matthew 1 1 to 17, we have a long list of genealogy of Jesus. Before we begin to look at the specific tests, how come we have all these different stories about the birth of Jesus? What's the purpose of this long genealogy to begin with in the New Testament? Are the three blocks of generations, 14 generations, each really 14 generations in number?
Yeah, I think let's just make this clear. The four Gospels, and if our listeners can go back to our previous conversation in September on the Gospels, the four Gospels are really very different. Each of them are very different. And one of the places where you see that difference is in the birth narratives. The birth narratives in Matthew are different from the ones in the Gospel of Luke. And so very often we try to put them all together on the stage during Christmas drama. But that is the reality of the four Gospels. And that is why each of these Gospels are written from a different perspective. They should be savored, studied, and understood separately. We should be careful not to mix them all in a hurry. So we have these different stories. That's the way we have the Gospels with us. What is the purpose of this story? So we invite people to open their Bibles if they are in a place where they can sit and open their Bibles. Go ahead, open your Bibles. We are looking at the first 17 verses. Now, for many of us, to begin a gospel with a long list of so-and-so was the father of so-and-so was the father, I grew up with this as being a very boring way to actually start a story. But this is the way it is part of the biblical story. In fact, the last book of the Hebrew scriptures, not in our English Bibles, but in the Hebrew Bible, was the book of Chronicles. And when you open Chronicles, First Chronicles, the first 9 chapters are genealogy, one after the other. So genealogies are very, very important. And as you look at the Greek text, the word there is genesios, from Genesis or Genesis. This is the book of the Genesis of Jesus Christ, the son of David and son of Abraham. So this is the very biblical, or what we would say Old Testament, biblical way of speaking about the line ancestry of the Messiah. Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. This is the exciting story of the Messiah who has come. You know, people of God have been waiting, and here he has come. But who is he? And the biblical way of presenting a person is you have to tell their lineage, their ancestry. So we have these beautiful, the genealogy in Matthew, different from the one in Luke. So here, he is going to put it in 14 blocks, roughly 14. They are not exactly 14. The third one is, I think, 13. So why is this being done? Why 14? One of the things to recognize is most probably, the Hebrew people love to play with numbers. The letters of the Hebrew alphabet were given numbers. And to see some significance from that, this was called gematria. So probably the reason 14 is chosen is, some say because 7 plus 7, but probably it's because, you see the first line, it says, Jesus the Messiah, who is he the son of? David. And everything is lined along David. So first one is Abraham to David, first 14. Then David to exile and exile to Jesus the son of David. And David, if the 3 letters of the name Dalet, Wav, Dalet, 464, that's the number in the Hebrew alphabet, you add that, 464 is 14. So probably all Matthew has done is selected a few names. Definitely they are not 14, because you will find there are gaps. Anybody who wants to compare this, there is a genealogy in 1 Chronicles 3. You can check that out. So it is not 14. It is symbolically chosen as a scheme to show that Jesus is from the line of David. Now, what for the gospel writer is, you are talking about the story of God till now. Here is the continuation of the story. No one can understand what we call the New Testament without the story of the Old Testament. We won't understand it well. Jesus doesn't come in a vacuum. So, this is the story of the long awaited Messiah, son of David. And then, what is unusual about this, I wish we had more time to talk about this, but briefly, is that usually in a genealogy, women don't need to be mentioned. But here you have 4 women mentioned even before Mary is mentioned. That is very unusual. And you could have expected, instead of these 4, you should have expected Sarah, or Rachel, or Leah, or Rebecca. They are not mentioned. Instead, you have some other women mentioned. Tamar. And you go back to the story in Genesis, it's not a pretty story. And Rahab, a Moabitess. And that, the Genesis of Moab from Lot and his daughters, incest, is again not a nice story. And then you have the story of Rahab. Very interesting, as an ancestress mentioned there. And then there is the mother of Solomon. Interestingly, her name Bathsheba is not given in the text. She's called Mrs. Uriah. So if you had asked Solomon, who's your father? He'll say, David. Who's your mother? Mrs. Uriah. And at once you recognize, and then when you read many of these other characters, they are, to call them rascals will be a very kind thing to do. They are really bad, many of them. And so, all of them are mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. You could have tried to sanitize this genealogy, isn't it? But no, Matthew tells you as it is. I wonder whether he wants to show that God is bringing redemption and salvation even though his people have failed miserably. Now, the other interesting thing is that these women, Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and we are not sure about Bathsheba, she was married to a Gentile. They are all Gentile women. So you begin a story of the genealogy of Jesus, and it includes Gentiles. So Gentiles are not an afterthought in the salvation plan of God. When God called Abraham to be a blessing to the whole world. And in the end of this gospel in Matthew, we will read again, go into all the world. So this whole idea of the Gentiles being pulled into the story of redemption. But also women. I already mentioned it's very unusual. Women around the world, Pastor Shine, are the most exploited. And so it is God's plan to bring women, mention them in an unusual way, because God is redeeming the world. And so I think this genealogy, in short, emphasizes or highlights grace, God's grace. Salvation is going to come through grace. A passage in Paul, Romans 5, 1 to 11, you read about, it says, while we were yet enemies of God, while we were powerless, while we were sinners, God has shown his love for us. So this passage, with all these unusual characteristics, shows the great love of God. God who loves his enemies. And when we talk about Advent, we have the grace and the mercy and the compassion of God who comes to save sinners. That's his unusual way of starting the gospel.